welcome to the Crit to Block podcast. We are your hosts, Eric Maylott.
And Richard Lavery.
Normally here to bring you in-depth conversation about Star Wars, Legion, and list building. However, today we have another special guest with us to talk about the modeling aspect of Legion, in particular, kit bashing and having fun with how you build your minis.
Drew is a mastermind of painting and kit bashing, and we here at Crit to Block have been very lucky to partner with him on several things, from the clone training facility STLs on our website to commissioned paint jobs, and calling Drew in to judge painting competitions at tournaments, because Lord knows I am not qualified to do so. But enough about me hyping him up. Drew, introduce yourself and let the people know where we can find you.
Hi, I am Drew, Ninetale Hobbies. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, very, very occasionally on Facebook. I like to, sit down in my dank basement and paint my minis and not socialize with people unless there's a tournament going on. No, I'm a full-time commission painter, sometime model maker, dabble in game development and everything. I've got a couple of one-page games and everything I've done. But yeah, me and Richard and Eric have all met each other years ago at Rocky Top. And yeah, it's just kind of snowballed ever since then.
Every event we hang out, we catch up a little bit. You show me what new crazy paint jobs you've done. I buy at least one thing from you because there's always something that catches my eye. And
yeah, Richard occasionally abuses me on the game board.
Well,
me and Eric have never got to play, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, I hope that changes someday.
Yeah. But no, one other thing that I've been doing is hashtag mod my Legion, which is one thing I have noticed is really lacking in the Legion sphere, is kit bashing and altering your minis in one way or another. You see all kinds of really cool paint jobs and people customizing it that way. But I don't know, it seems like modding your minis in some way is like anathema in the Legion hobby.
The
and I see it
isn't so much there.
Yeah, and I see it occasionally, and when I do see it, it's really well done. There's Steve in Asheville, who always wins the best paint at Cherokee. A bunch of his stuff is modded. I saw some really cool stuff down at Crucible, the guy who had the swoops that had the droids riding on top of it. But generally when I talk to people about it, there's just something, and that's kind of what I want to do is bring awareness and a passion for it. And I think especially with these custom commanders and the Tour of Duty coming out, it's really a good time to kind of get that hype going and start educating people, because even when I talk about it, just the general lingo people don't seem to be overall aware of.
100%. And let's start at the basics. We have a lot of newer players that listen to the podcast. Define what kit bashing is for us.
Kit bashing is, from the most basic level, altering your mini in any way. That's kit bashing. You take a head off of something else and just slap it on your other one. That's kit bashing. And it can go so far as to, I took the hand from this model, the arm from this model, the chest from this model, and slapped them together and completely, redid a pose, or made my entire original guy. So you can use epoxy putties like green stuff and milliput, and then sculpt your own bits and pieces. It's as shallow or as in-depth as you want it to be. Just like anything in the hobby, gameplay, painting, anything, just however far you want to dive into it.
So as someone who has, as of late, gotten away from even painting, because the hobby aspect is not my forte in Legion, how does one get, I know the custom commanders, like you mentioned, are great. They come with multiple poses, options, heads, etc. I guess for other units, how would you recommend getting started with kit bashing?
I mean, again, it's something as simple as changing out a head. Take Rebels, for example. Rebels are the easiest example, I think, because to me, they're supposed to be a piecemeal army. They're supposed to have like gone around the battlefields or the black market and like grabbed all the bits and scraps and everything that they possibly could. If I had enough money, I would make a rebel army and I would just buy boxes of everything else and just slap them together and make the most ramshackle looking rebel army I possibly could. You could throw a stormtrooper arm onto a guy. You know, he picked up a piece of armor. The swoop bikes are amazing source of bits, especially with the heads and the arms and everything. While I was down at Crucible, I kit bashed 2 different minis while I was down there, just while I was sitting at the table, just kind of mucking around. I don't know if you'd be able to see this guy well enough.
Okay.
Yeah, that looks great.
But this is a swoop bike rider's head and arm, Cassian's arm, Lando's torso, Mandalorian legs, and then a Magna Guard cape.
Wow.
And I just
Okay.
I just have a big tote full of bits, and I just pick through the bits and kind of look and stick stuff up together and see, like, one of the main things when you're doing a completely custom kit bash is looking at the silhouette. Like, is this a dynamic, interesting thing to look at? If I hold it at arm's distance, like, does it cut a cool figure? So that's one of the main things about kit bashing, and making sure your proportions and your body language is right. And if you're having struggle looking at something, just go online and just type in artistic poses, and there'll be a catalog of just people standing or moving in different ways that you can reference to help you with that.
Oh, that's really interesting. And that this feels like a really good time because we're getting the Rebel Commandos, the Rebel Trooper boxes that have all of the variety of alien heads within them, and the way I know AMG has started doing some of their sculpts is it's really easy to interchange those pieces, and I think they're doing that by design. If I remember an interview from like 6 months ago when they were talking about doing these resculpts correctly. So sounds like what you're suggesting is what they're hoping people are doing.
Yeah, I mean, 2 parts to that. One, the devs have even come out and told people to kit bash. They're like, people were screaming at the sky when the ARFs came out and there wasn't a guy pointing because you couldn't tell who the commander was. And they're like, put a pointing arm on him or paint his visor a different color. And even with the devs being like, hey, kit bash stuff. Because I've looked and the official rules say it has to be a majority of AMG plastic, which means 50% or more.
51%?
Yep. And it has to look like Star Wars. And I talked to someone down at Crucible who is very in touch with AMG and the rules and everything. And they don't care about 3D printed armies or anything like that. As long as you're not at Adepticon being like, here's my entire 3D printed Ewok army, which apparently is the only thing that they've said no to. As long as you've got...
Which is a shame, because there's some great 3D printed Ewok models out there.
There are, and I think as long as you're not bringing an entire army to them, they're not going to say anything. They want people to play their game. And... I don't know. It's even with... Okay, I'm going to throw a little bit of shade at our community, and I love our community, but they're always the doom and gloomiest people. Oh, this is going to ruin the game. This is the worst thing ever. Or... And I think this epitomizes the... I can't kit bash something because someone hasn't told me explicitly that I can, or it's not written down, is when people got upset that the art for the custom commander and operative for the rebels was switched from what they thought it was supposed to be. And I'm like, they're custom minis. They could have had little stick figures with the rebel emblem as a head, like running across the battlefield for all that it matters. Like, I love you all, but like
There's a lot of
really doesn't
variety
matter.
that we can weave into the game right now that I mean, Legion as a whole, right? You know, if you look at some of the other IPs that have been out there for decades, right? Legion is entering its eighth year, I believe, or we just entered the eighth year. Time is a concept, um, and exactly as a result, the community is still new in some aspects, and perhaps this hobbying one is one of them, where we can see some real growth over the next couple years.
Yeah, and the devs were talking about, you know, the future of custom units, not just commanders and operatives. So I think whether people are thinking about it right now, it is, I think, going to become more prevalent just by the way of what is released by AMG. But that also means you have the opportunity to take it and run with it, like you're talking about, Drew, and just really make it your own, make it interesting so that, I don't know, your army is more unique, and it's not just, oh, these are my sleepers, they look like all sleepers, or
And I mean, you guys know I'm not much of a player, and so I
I don't
generate
think you're doing yourself enough justice there, buddy. But
well, okay, this is gonna go into our next subject, but a little anecdote. Me and Richard, I think it was the first time we played at Atomic, and we were talking after you had just rolled me with your Wookiees, and you were looking at some of my stuff, and you said, I don't think I could ever paint as good as you do. And I said, well, I don't think I could ever play as good as you do because I don't put the time in. And you kind of looked at me and I was like, I put the amount of time in to paint as you do to play. And that's the reason why I don't know. And you just had this look on your face like, oh, that's why. Like,
it dumbfounded me.
and that's, I have a motto for any time I talk to people, because I get that a lot. It's like, oh, I can't paint as good as you. And I don't think I'm that good of a painter. I think I'm fine. Like, I'm steady. But any paint is good paint. If you are into the game and you don't want to paint and you slap some primer on some stuff and color it with a Sharpie, you know, you throw some white primer on some clones and some stormtroopers and throw some black Sharpie on their undersuits, and you're happy with that, go for it. But if you're sitting there with magnifying glasses on and you're, you know, putting cloth patterns on every single rebel coat, then good for you too. Like,
cloth patterns on every single rebel coat.
I used to be so much more ambitious in the hobby aspect. Like, I have my fleet troopers with this urban camo theme that, like, I think actually looks really good. They're still not actually technically done, but they're most of the way done, and they have this.
They're never
cool
done.
Yeah, exactly. I've got like my tiger stripes, rebel troopers.
They look great.
I used to be so much more ambitious, and I've gotten to the point in life where I'm just like, I don't have time to do this painting thing.
Yeah.
But with this new custom commander, and I do have like a 3D printed Baze and Chirrut to go with my Rogue One army now that they're gonna kind of take the place of the custom commanders. I do think I'm gonna force myself to get back into it just because I think I can do it. Like you're saying, I just need to put the time in and make the effort.
Well, and it's time versus quality and quantity. Because while we're not 40K with, you know, I've got to paint 800 guys and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. You know, we're looking at, what, 40, 50 models per side, give or take. And that's still a decent investment. I mean, the fastest I've ever painted, I painted a rebel army in my synthwave style in 3 days.
And that one
it wasn't my best paint job. It was for a tournament. Somebody paid me extra. I was like, yeah, sure, I can shove this out the door. But that's one thing you personally have to look at is, where's your skill level at? What are you comfortable with? How much effort do you want to put into it? And how much do you have to paint? Because you could assemble your entire army and paint with it or play with it for a year, and every month say I want to paint one squad. And by the end of the year, you're going to have the squad done. And even if you paint, say, an hour a night, or you get a day and you can paint like 3 hours in the day, and that's all you can paint, you're still going to make progress and your skill's going to grow. And by the time you're done, you're going to look at your original thing and say, I need to repaint this now because this looks like hot garbage compared to what I've, finished at the end of the year.
Yeah, it's very much a practice makes perfect kind of situation. I know I joined an online like TTRPG group, and while we play on Sundays, I paint. Um, and I finally feel like I'm at a place where I can actually put the mini on the table for the painting competitions. I'm never expecting to win anything, but a year ago, never would have even attempted it. Um, so I think you're right. There's a level of you just gotta dive in and just start doing it. And as long as you're happy with it, like you don't have to be thrilled. It doesn't have to be the best thing ever, but you know, a painted army always looks better on the table. Um, and I think that's just going to make your experience as a player better overall as well.
Yeah, and it helps you and your opponent kind of get into it more when you've got a fully painted army that you're either looking at or your opponent's looking at. And I think that leads into Tour of Duty really, really well because
Mhm.
you're starting off, it's a recon force. You
Yes.
can buy a starter set, which, backtracking to what you said previously, where it looks like things are modular, I
Hmm.
bought a Rebel starter just to kit bash with. Like, I have no interest in assembling it for any other things than
Hmm.
because the legs, the torso, the arms, and the head are all separate parts. And I'm building some customs for Ryan over at
Oh,
Stabcast,
nice. Hmm.
and I've got the Imperials as well. And I was just curious, so I started taking bits off the sprue. And after you clip the pegs off, they are modular with each other, which tells me that
Oh.
the Jedi are also going to be modular with all the other stuff.
Nice.
Oh.
Okay.
So and robots
I
are
need to get my
robots. So I
capes back
mean,
from Chris. I want to put capes on my Jedi now.
yeah, yeah, those capes are awesome, and there's 4 different ones in there. So
Oh, I just handed 2 half sprues to Chris with capes on them
yeah,
yesterday. So, might have to get 1 or 2 of those back.
I want some
yeah.
robot arms from Tyler. Give my rebels some robot limbs.
That's one thing I'm doing with my Shadow Collective is I'm turning it into Cyborg Collective.
Nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'm taking all the members are getting like different droid parts and everything like that because they're going to be that's
Yeah.
the story for them is they're all combat veterans that have had limbs blown off and
Nice. Yeah, that's really cool.
Okay,
and
so it definitely sounds like the custom characters, specifically the generic commanders and operatives that the factions are getting, is really kind of the easiest place for someone to start this kit bashing journey. Where where would you go once they get one of their commanders done? Where would you go? Would you go to a vehicle? Would you go to a unit next?
vehicles are kind of a different creature
Okay.
unto themselves because if we look far enough back, Star Wars didn't originate kit bashing for their movies, but they pretty much made it popular, like adding greeblies to everything. And they took models of what was it, the P-51 Mustang, airplane, and made the X-wing by turning it around backwards and flattening everything out.
Hmm.
So vehicles are try to add things onto it to see how it looks more so than I'm because vehicles are also very expensive compared to a mini. unless you have a 3D printer and then go at it all day long, because you're going to spend $2 printing. I have a Saber tank that looks exactly like the official model, and it costs me like $2 to print out. But I think the custom commander gives you the feeling of kit bashing without it actually being kit bashing, because you've got so many different options to change out the arms and the heads and the weapons and you could even magnetize it if you're really feeling down with it. But yeah, take if you're going to play Tour of Duty or whatever, take your unit commander and do something special with them. Add a shoulder pad on, modify their helmet in some way. You can take things like styrene that you can get from the store, which is just the same material that sprues are made out of, except it's not dyed, and you can buy it in tubes, you can buy it in rods, you can buy it in sheets, and you can cut it however you want to. The Wookiee Jedi that you bought off me, its lightsabers are made out of styrene.
No kidding.
And the nice thing about styrene is if you're using it for lightsabers is it's got more flex than the official model, so they won't snap as easily and they won't droop over time.
For anyone on the YouTube who wanted to see what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen that from you. That looks great.
Well, I got it at Crucible.
Oh, okay, that's why.
I had to give him a little bit of a hard time because I was like, Richard, you can't buy this. And I said, why not? I said, because you don't play Jedi. You can't buy this guy. So
I don't, but that's something that's going to have to change with these new customs.
Yeah. How do you think, off subject, but real quick, how do you think the Wookiee Battle Force is going to do with the new
customs?
Yeah.
I don't think you're bringing them. But I've also been a real on-the-record hater of any Wookiee Battle Force build that's a variation on what I found the most success with.
That's fair.
So I tried over a dozen variations of that list. Unless there's a points or unit change coming, I don't think you can add something in without taking away from the raw efficiency of the order control of the all-trooper model.
It's because you don't have faith in the Fluttercraft.
I don't have faith in the Fluttercraft. They are beautiful models. I have seen them done so many incredible ways with paint schemes. We were talking about Asheville before. We've got Ricky's Pirate Wookiee Fluttercraft that are just absolutely gorgeous. I'll never put them on the table. They're not as efficient as just full Wookiee troopers. Anyway, that's a tirade for a different day.
Yeah, for sure. But no. Getting back, kit bashing like a unit leader or a heavy or, I've heard you guys talk about that one hero unit. Everybody's got that story of that mini that just refuses to die on the table, defying all Richard dice math that something can throw at you, and doing something special with that guy, giving him a name, giving him his own whatever, even if you're not playing Tour of Duty, like giving that character something.
Yeah, and I think that's really good for Tours of Duty, since you can spend these points in order to upgrade individual units, give them new keywords and things of that nature. You can really customize your unit's look to match the rules that you're giving it throughout the campaign. And I think that's a really cool idea that I guess I didn't fully consider going into it. But now with this kit bashing conversation, it sounds like there's a lot of things that you could really do with it.
Yeah, and all those nerds that are out there like myself that have already built the backstory for your army before this even came out. Because I had, my very first tournament, I tested the waters talking to people about it, and I just saw the look glaze over. And so I was like, okay, this is I'll just keep this in my head. But now with this coming out and everything, I'm super excited because, like I mentioned before, I like to dabble in game dev. I have a document called Heirs of the Galaxy instead of instead of Heirs to the Empire, and it was Tours of Duty in first edition. And I was getting ready to put it out for free to the community, and they were like, "We're announcing second edition." I was like, "Okay, well, let's wait until second edition comes out. Okay, let me modify this and change this around and blah 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 blah." And I was real close. I'd been playtesting it and everything, and then they were like, "We're coming out with a campaign version." I was like, which is awesome. Don't get me wrong, that it's a officially sponsored thing, and it came out and it did not disappoint. As someone who, I look at a lot of games for different reasons to see what mechanics they use and all that good stuff, and their use, their homage to like Mordheim and Frostgrave and all these other systems that have this post-game thing, they did a really good job. My only real complaint is I'd like to see more drawbacks instead of the 4 that they have, just to add a little bit more robustness. But this is also the first draft. Also, the same is with the custom commanders. This is just the first draft of stuff we have, and they can just print and play. They can say, here's this new lightsaber, here's this new doctrine for all this stuff. Again, I love the community, but every single time, we go 3 months without an update, it's, oh, this game is dead. Oh, this is not gonna blah blah blah.
How quickly we forget of Imperial March dropped at the beginning of the summer.
Yeah.
Amongst other upgrades.
Imperial March is gross.
Yeah.
I mean, the same thing with the models. Like, okay, my one gripe I have about these new commander sets, and I don't know if the Jedi and Droid are going to have the same problem. There are multiple one-arm options, and then if you don't have, like with the Rebel, if you have the pike or the main gun, it's got its thing. If you use any of the pistols or the pointing hand, the other arm only has the thermal detonator. That's a problem that a lot of other companies do, is we're going to give you a bajillion options with this one arm, and then you've got 2 options with this other arm, and that's it. And it's usually the left arm. In this case with the Rebels, like all their stuff is in the left hand, and then the thermal detonator is in the right. But that is my only gripe. Like, AMG, if you ever see this, just give us a box of right arms for the Rebels or whatever. Like,
just a whole box of right
just
arms.
a whole box, yeah. But
you just need to buy a starter box, because I heard there's a lot of pieces in there that you can.
I did buy a whole starter box.
There you
go. but all the right arms are connected to big rifles, so I couldn't even use the hands.
There's a C-3PO red leg joke in here somewhere about a box full of right arms.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it is, but it's there.
But again, my only gripe with it, and that's just because I build models constantly. So, and that's another thing. Community, clean your mold lines, and there's a thing called sprue goo, where you take.
I feel like this is directed at me.
Maybe you take Tamiya thin cement, you chop up little pieces of sprue, and you stick it in there, and you make this gray goo. And it fills in all the gaps to your model, and it's an adhesive that holds it together. Yeah, the first time I mentioned this, I had a group of people. It was at the first time I judged the painting competition, and I had a group of people just stare at me, and some goes, "What's sprue goo?" I was like, "Talk to me afterwards."
Why do I remember that?
That might have been Cherokee.
That might have been that might have been Cherokee. Because that sounds familiar, and I meant to do that, but then got distracted by things going on. So,
but no, it's little things like that as someone who constantly does it, takes it for granted that people don't have the same this is going to sound pretentious, and I'm sorry, that don't have the same modeling IQ, just because they're either not into it, like it's just not their thing, and which is completely fine, um, or just haven't had a chance to educate themselves. So
Mhm.
that's what I'm hoping to do. I
It
don't.
goes back to what you were saying about limited time at the top
Yeah.
of the episode. You this is what you've put your time into, and it shows between your knowledge and your skill.
So yeah, I don't want to take anybody let anybody think I'm throwing shade. I'm just very passionate, uh, and sometimes I get a little wound up.
No, I mean, for anyone who hasn't checked out your Instagram or seen your stuff in online or in person, like just go look at it. I think the passion is very evident in your work. Like I have a Luke Skywalker that I won at Rocky Top as a raffle, and then that made me like go buy more things from you. I was like, this looks so much better than all of my things. It looks so great. Like, so I think, yeah, it's very clear from your work that you have this passion, and I don't think anyone's gonna be offended by you.
Well, I appreciate that, and also if anybody is watching this, or listening or whatever, wants to reach out, hit me up on Instagram or YouTube or on the Discord and everything, and I will talk paint to anybody and everybody all the time. So
I can't wait for
on the Tennessee Discord, we used to do paint nights all the time. I'm getting ready to start it back up.
I remember that. That was when I had a newborn, and so a lot of times you guys would get on while I was like rocking her to sleep, and I was just stuck in a
Mm.
chair, and I'd see you guys were on, and so I always thought about like just popping on my headphones and joining, just to
Yeah, absolutely.
listen to
Please
you
do.
talk about painting and whatnot,
Oh, we're usually just hurling insults at each other because that's
which is
that's
ideal.
how we
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
It
it's very
sounds
expensive.
like, if you need more things to do with your free time, maybe you should just start up like a weekly painting like class thing. Like
Yeah.
I feel like that would be really interesting if we just had if I could just join like a call with you and just do modeling things. Like, hey, what do I do with this? Like,
Yeah, yeah. No, that I mean that's one of the things that we do on paint night. I've had people, turn on their cameras and they're like, "What do you think about this?" I mean, Richard, it wasn't the same thing, but a couple weeks ago was like, "Hey, this model that I'm painting doesn't quite look right. What's the deal?" And if I remember, it had like pink wings and blue skin with like yellow accents and everything, and the pants were just kind of lost in it. And I was like, "We'll do a purple because it's a split between, it'll complement the pink wings and the blue skin because pink is just, a derivative of red with white in it, blah, blah, blah."
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, I had gone more with a blue based purple, and Drew pointed me in the direction of a red based purple, down to like quite literally telling me go buy this exact paint and it'll fix your problems. And I was like, okay, let's try it. Sure enough, the model looks much better. So yeah, no, it's extremely helpful information. I appreciate it. I need to
yeah,
next time I see you in person, I need you to tell me how to make my ISB officer better because I hate painting white. That's a
did
whole
you,
different conversation.
it is oil paint is the answer. Um,
I messed up already.
yeah, yeah. Did you put the washer on your dark trooper yet?
God no. You think no, I'm terrible at this. I no, I the reality is I got back from Crucible and I taught a local how to play the Revenant list and then I put it to the side because it had done everything I wanted it to.
Served its
So
purpose.
mhm.
Just
Now
for
we move on
those
to the next.
that have the same problem, one of the dark troopers is on a very tall base with its
So tall.
rockets and everything, and it tips over all the time. Glue a washer onto the bottom of it, and it'll be bottom heavy enough that whenever you tap it, it won't just instantly fall over.
Yeah, it's little things like that. Really, they see it, you say it, and you're like, yeah, obviously, duh. But then my self, I don't know. I was trying to think of a word, couldn't get there. Sitting, putting all this together, I'm like, well, this is just going to be a problem for the rest of eternity. Here we are.
Yep.
So, Drew, I know we're getting close-ish to the end of our time, and on our list here, you say 2 hot takes. I don't know how long that's going to take.
Okay. Well, one I
guess we
think is
start
gonna
with one.
one I think is gonna be very short, and two of them, and the second one I think depend on what buttons it pushes on you, Richard. We'll see how long that takes.
No.
So, first hot take is the next customs that come out, they should add a Jedi operative to Rebels, like a Jedi survivor. Only as an operative, can't be a commander in your army.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe like Inquisitors or Dark Jedi or something like that for Empire.
Okay. I would love a custom Inquisitor. That would be sick.
Okay.
Yeah,
Give me Grand Inquisitor while we're at it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I figured.
I feel
that
like
would be...
I have also thought about like a generic, maybe not like a Jedi, but some kind of force sensitive person. I feel like you could mess with their like keywords and whatnot, so they're not like a full Jedi, just because that's kind of the thing with Rebels is the Jedi are supposedly gone, but just some kind of force sensitive, like untrained person, I think would be super cool. And
that would be.
If you give them a lightsaber, even better.
Yeah.
Rebel lightsabers are historically the worst out of any faction's lightsabers. So
yeah, it'd be like 3 black and a white.
You're saying in a faction where Op Luke exists.
It's still 7 black, and it's like not consistent at all.
I'm not hearing this.
Okay.
Don't.
Well,
No.
That's a whole different thing, I guess. Maybe that's
Yeah.
my own hot take for this conversation, but I do not think Rebel lightsabers are match up.
I'm toying around with the idea with talking to my locals and seeing if they'd let me run the Rebel customs as commanders for Shadow Collective, because I feel like those would kind of roll. Again, AMG, if you're listening, we need some like custom mercenaries or some. I know Shadow Collective isn't a faction, but we need something for them.
A bounty hunter at least, right?
Yeah.
That would be so cool.
That would be really cool.
I want to make Greedo. I want to make like Dengar.
I feel like that has to be in the works, right?
It's got to be.
I'll keep my fingers crossed,
Yeah.
There's there's so many bounty hunters in the Star Wars galaxy. You got to be able to do a custom
and that's
bounty
printing money too. Like if they came out and they're like, "Hey, here's a custom bounty hunter," people would go bananas.
Yeah. Aura Singh, Embo, like, but then you have the whole argument of, is it a custom commander or is it that character? And I feel like AMG has been very upfront about, if this game goes on long enough, they're gonna show up.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think that was a concern about the customs in general. It was just like, oh well, this gunslinger guy that they're talking about is just going to be a Han Light, and he's really not. He's not. With the relentless infiltrate, even if you do the Arsenal 2 pistol, like very, very different aesthetic than Han. And all the Jedi feel like just generic Jedis that are running around in the background.
Yeah, I think they've found a really good balance of, these are unique, but they are not in any way replacing existing heroes, nor do they feel like heroes that aren't in the game yet, I guess.
Yeah.
The second point's a little harder to pin down, but yeah.
And I mean, they did regurgitate the original generics, but again, you can build them a little more differently if you want to. So that's cool. But second hot take, and this is for my buddy Alan.
Oh no.
There is no meta in Legion. And what I mean by that is there are no units that are meta. There are good units. There are units that you want to take to be competitive. But the meta for Legion is the player, not the models. Because it is the pilot. And I feel like, Richard, you embody this, especially with bringing Remnant. and we had 2 Empire, and Empire is the bad faction.
So I guess how I would push back against that, right, is I don't believe, and I argued this on a different podcast like 2 months ago or something, right, is I do believe metas exist in Legion. I don't believe they are faction or unit specific, so in that I agree. But I think it's play style based on different regions. So the example I gave back then was like the DC, kind of like Northern Virginia, Southern Pennsylvania, and Jersey area is very defensive in their play style, right? If you look at North Carolina, um, the players that we bring to events are all very aggressive players in their play style, myself included.
I know who to blame for that, Richard.
Yeah, I wonder. Whoops. You go to like Indiana, though, you're full of tricks and like shenanigans that are going on between like your Brian Bears and your Adams. And so I do think metas exist in Legion, but I agree that they are not unit faction based, but are more your unique play group and who you interact with will all gravitate towards a certain style. And that's what makes events like GTs like Crucible or Adepticon, Cherokee, on and on and on and on, so exciting, is because you pull these groups from different areas that have such different play styles and pit them against each other. And you see a real clash of personalities, and it's a lot of fun. Like, let's take Crucible, right? That final game versus Austin, we were both playing Empire. They were very different lists, and Austin and I have incredibly different play styles. And so even though we're within the same faction and we're using a lot of the same units, how we approach the game and how we played those units are colored and changed by who we're practicing against and who we are as players. So yes to one, no to the other part of your statement, I guess.
And I think if you made it through Stabcast's week-long episode, their most recent one, like, I was really... The one thing Ryan mentioned was that Florida was not ready for the standby game that Rebel vets have. And, like, that's shocking to me, because it didn't occur to me that some areas don't see standby play as part of their, like, local scene. And that's just... I don't know. Yeah, I would 100% agree with Richard. It's a lot of region-based playstyle meta, more so than... I mean, some units are just bad. Don't get me wrong.
Name a bad unit right now. Do it. You won't.
Rebel Commandos?
Name a second bad unit. You won't.
Rebel Pathfinders. They're the worst. They're so bad.
They had to be
Kicked them.
yeeted from the game. It's fine.
I'll work on a second one.
Side tangent to that is, that's why I like Tour of Duty. I haven't played it yet, but I like the idea of it, is because they're not worried about balance. They even came out and they said, we're doing this for fun. Don't worry about balance. Don't worry, and you can throw all your dice math out the window, Richard. I believe in the dice.
Listen, so by the time this episode is dropping, we'll have our interview with them about Tours of Duty out. And
I just
they more or less say the same thing to me. So it is what it is. I guess I'll take my dice math and go home. Well,
there you go.
Somewhere else. I'm already home. So, okay, great. Well, those were spicy takes. I had thoughts.
I knew you would.
Gosh. Well, like I said, we are rapidly approaching the time where our listeners start to drop off. If we got to keep them short instead of 3 hours.
Yeah,
long.
sorry. I tend to bloviate when it comes to hobby.
No, that's great. We loved it. We learned a lot from you. Really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, any kitbashing questions, any hobbying questions, any painting questions, get in Drew's DMs. Let him know what you're working on, and he'll have something to help you.
Yeah, Drew, I might be reaching out because I'm picking up my Commander box tomorrow.
Yeah,
so I'm going to crack that open sometime soon, and I will probably have questions.
Yeah. Just remember, #ModMyLegion.
There you go. #ModMyLegion. Eric.
Awesome. And with that, I'll remind our listeners, don't forget to crit to block.